I have started to rivet together the tail cone of the airplane. So I've match drilled everything, like the stiffeners along the side. I've done a video on that. I've primed everything, prepped it. Now I'm riveting it together. I've already riveted the bottom, and now I'm kind of riveting the sides. I intend to try back riveting most of it, but right now I'm using the rivet gun and hitting the front with the bucking bar in the back. And it actually seems to be doing well. I've dialed down the air pressure on my rivet gun quite a bit, and that seems to have been working a lot better than when I was hitting it with a lot more air pressure. Right now, I think on my regulator, I've been doing the 3/32 rivets at 20, 25 PSI, and I even think that might be a little high, at least for my setup. But it's very controllable, very nice. Really am getting good results. So I was thinking about back riveting most of these, but I think that I might actually just buck them like normal. Also, one thing that I've learned from watching somebody else's YouTube video, Austin Mankey, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He said that on this rear bulkhead, it was hard to rivet in these rudder stop braces after it was already in there. So one of the things that I did is I riveted them together before I put it in, and I think that's gonna make it a little bit easier. It's really hard to get a squeezer in there or maybe a rivet gun once it's inside. Maybe not. Anyway, he had a hard time doing it, and I try to learn from things that other people do, and that's one nice thing about building RV10 is any problem you can run into, somebody else has already run into it, so rather than try to reinvent the wheel, just learn from what other people have done. So I did that. Anyway, the tail cone overall isn't terribly complicated. There's nothing really that hard about it. There's not really that many tricks. Riveting some of the things is a little bit difficult. I'm not an 8-foot tall gorilla. My arms are only so long. And so one of the problems is you can't do everything on your own with this. So I have had a friend help me out on some parts. A lot of it I can rivet, but I'm gonna have to have my friend or my wife help me out with some of it. Other than that, less talk, more work. Let me get to it. I've finished riveting most of the tail cone. There's a couple things I need to do. In particular, I need to rivet the top skin on. But there's also some other things I need to rivet together. The structure that's going to hold the battery box. I also need to rivet together the structure that's going to hold the trim tab. the trim tab motor for the elevator trim tabs. That actually isn't listed until later on in the plans, but I'm going to go ahead and do that now. It's basically a structure that can just kind of screw on right here. So I'm going to continue working by doing that. For the most part, putting together this tail cone was pretty straightforward. Nothing too unusual, nothing too difficult about it. Basically just drilling holes, riveting them together, bolting things together, and all that. So anyway, right now, as part of making the structure that holds the trim tab motor for the elevator trims, for the elevator trim tabs, there's some, I don't even know what they're called, brackets, I guess, that I need to make out of some angle iron or angle aluminum. And so I'm gonna get to doing that right now. But tonight I'm gonna try to see if I can do a lot of other stuff too. I need to bolt on the seat, things that hold the seat belts, and other stuff like that. Anyway, I'm gonna continue working. So I am at a stopping point on working on the tail cone for right now. I put on this top skin, and riveted most of it together. The next steps here, I kind of need to rivet this top skin on. But my wife is working right now. She's a labor and delivery nurse. Actually, now she's working in Mom Baby. She's a nurse, and she can't help me do it. And she's gonna be gone most of next week to Vegas without me, but I'm sure I can trust her. Anyway, I need her help or somebody's help. I have a 17-year-old son here, but he's workless, so I'm gonna need my wife's help to kind of rivet this. So I'm at a stopping point on the tail cone. Riveting everything else together, bolting everything else together, by and large, was pretty straightforward. It wasn't too tricky. Riveting some of the 1/8 rivets at the very back was kind of hard. With the bucking bar, you kind of had to do a lot of reach arounds and things like that. I had to drill 1 or 2 of them out, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. I did finish the battery bell crank mount. This thing will eventually go right here, but I'm gonna hold off on putting that in too until the top skin's riveted on, because someone's gonna have to lay in there, and this wouldn't do to have this in there. Anyway, I'm done with this part for now. I'm gonna have to hold off probably for a week or 2. Also, I think I've mentioned this before, but I did do some back riveting using this bucking bar on the bottom. And at least through the middle sections, I got quite a few. They're not leaning too bad, but they're leaning a little bit. So it's really somewhat counterintuitive to me. I've tried everything I can think of, but I can't really get good shop heads using the back rivet technique, at least not with this. And there's another back rivet bucking bar. I don't think it's this thing's problem, but who knows, maybe it is. Anyway, so for most of this thing, I riveted kind of just using the normal method like this, using the rivet gun with the bucking bar. And when I turn it down to about 20 PSI, at least using this regulator on this gun, I get really good results. In fact, I can't tell the difference between something that's been back riveted well and riveted using this rivet gun with the bucking bar. So I'm probably going to continue to do that. Around the corners, I kind of still want to try back riveting. On some of the things, back riveting's nice because I have some of these tabs are kind of sticking out a little bit, and back riveting is a good way to kind of push that in. You don't have to use one of those rubber gaskets with a bucking bar. But anyway, it's turned out pretty well. So I'm going to finish this video up here. Right now, I have a couple hours left, and I'm going to turn my attention to the rudder. Now, most of the time, your rudder, people tend to build that before they start working on the tail cone, at least if you follow the instructions. I've kind of held off on doing the rudder, not that it's particularly complicated, but because I want to add a rudder trim tab. And I've been thinking a lot on how to do this. If you're watching this video because you want to build, one thing I've learned just in my brief time building work on the empennage kit is that if you modify anything, it really adds to the build time. So trim tab on the rudder is kind of straightforward conceptually. A lot of people have kind of cut into the actual rudder itself about midway up, and I've been thinking hard about that. I think I could probably pull that off. I'm kind of nervous though about cutting into the skin because I don't want to have to order another rudder, and I'm worried that I might. Granted, if maybe I can't do something in modification like that, maybe I shouldn't be building an airplane in the first place, fine. But I have another idea where I'm basically going to add some piano hinge near the bottom with the fin sticking out, and I think I'm going to do that. But I need to think about that a little bit more. Regardless, I'm now going to turn my attention to the rudder, and that's it for this video. I'll come back and finish this up in probably a week or two. So that's it for now.